again with movie time. Hey y'all, it's like welcome to a happy now Wednesday, Thursday. Movie time. How are you doing? Hopefully everything is going well, and that you had an amazing weekend and also an amazing beginning of the week. And guess what? We have our incredible guest back, Liron Artzi. Hey Liron, how are you doing?
Good, Grayson. How are you? Thanks for having me back.
I'm doing fabulous. It's like launching off of the webinars. Ken, where do we go from there?
Hmm.
Season is getting all exciting, and of course with me is my co-host Arpo. Hey Arpo, how you doing?
I'm doing good, 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 good.
Just good, 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 good. I'm sorry, you're missing a good.
No, I did five goods. Good,
Okay,
good, 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 good. Yeah, that's right.
excellent. And also with me is my co-host Olaf. Hey Olaf, how you doing?
I am doing fantastic. I'm actually sitting outside enjoying the nice, cool evening air at a friend's house. So I'm doing really good. It's been a good day.
And you're having your own version of Twitter.
Yes.
Don't you hear the
Yes.
Tweety birds? We can hear the birds in the distance. And Liron, also, last time that we had spoken, we had left off with like quite a few things
We did.
that we had only touched the tip of the iceberg with.
I got to start by saying that right now I have there's a term for it as it's FOMO or FOMS, fear of missing something or fear of missing out, because all of my friends are at the Cannes Film Festival having a lot of fun, and I'm stuck back here working. So I'm a little bummed at the moment, but what are you gonna do? Can't be everywhere.
Well, we're partying at heart. And
Um,
your projects are there, which is the most important thing.
They are, although we've been focused primarily on the television market recently. There seems to be a major trend and a push towards TV,
Yes,
which is an interesting thing to discuss as well.
I would love to.
Sure. I guess we could start with that.
Yes.
What's fascinating to me about television and what's always interested me is that you're not limited in scope by a 90-minute or even 120-minute, or in the case of some directors who won't be mentioned, going all the way up to 3 hours, 3.5 hours in length of a film. But you have sort of this open book and the ability to really get in the narrative and develop these characters, and that is what's truly fascinating to me. So it's not 90 minutes of bubblegum popcorn blow 'em up
Yes.
action, but you really can really have some in-depth characters within the project itself and within the storyline. And I think that's what draws people in, are these beautiful character arcs that are written by, and let's face it, the writing in television these days is far superior to the average feature film that's coming out, right?
Absolutely.
So that's really what drew me there. And of course, it takes a ton of work to get a movie off the ground, as you folks know. It takes a ton of work to get a TV show off the ground. So if you're going to put in all
Yes.
that work to a project, I'd rather have something that is going to give me the longevity of 8 or 10 or 12 episodes per season, hopefully running 6, 7, 8 seasons. And so there's something to that. But also you notice a lot of
Hmm.
movie stars are now involved in television series as well.
Yes. There really is that great crossover now that is happening. But one of the fun things I find very interesting is there are some shows that are also having a targeted set of seasons as well. Like, for example, Orphan Black, they're having their final season this year. And it's 5. 5 is their key number of it. When they did, I believe it was Street Legal, they had done 7 seasons of Street Legal.
Mm-hmm.
They had done also with very, like certain shows, they have a targeted set of seasons.
Mm-hmm.
Some they want it to be longer term episodic, but with television, I find that now they're starting to take also more risks on topic.
I think you're 100% dead on with that. It's fascinating, and It's almost that like bait that they're hooking you, and then you want more, and then they're pulling it away from you, so that they drive your
Yes.
your DVD ratings and your pay TV ratings and everything else that's associated with that. So a lot of shows these days are very specific in length.
Yes.
I just saw Gorillas on Showtime, which just blew me away. I thought it was such a masterpiece, and that was a limited series, and it made me wanting more. And I'm checking when's the next season? Is it going to get renewed? Are we going to get a little bit more of a taste? But I think now, because of the ratings that television gets, that often 1 season, 2 seasons is sufficient, and people won't push for more. But I'd say on the whole, people still want as many seasons as they possibly can without sacrificing the quality. And I think that you have the networks that are probably going to push for those ratings and to keep going, and then you have a lot of executive producers, showrunners who don't want to sacrifice the quality. And once it sort of hits that tip of the iceberg and jumps the shark, then they're gonna pull it off the air. So it's interesting.
Yes, and what's interesting to me is seeing that more and more American networks now are starting to follow the British TV and Canadian TV and several other countries where the season is like 10 to 13 episodes. There could be, however many seasons you're going to have, but when it's only 10 to 13 episodes, then it's easier to attract like the big name actors and everything. I mean, Kevin Bacon, when he did The Following, said he would only do it if they limited the number of episodes in each season.
Right.
And that really makes television a much more attractive venue for actors, and I think for audiences as well, because you're not stringing a story out over 26 episodes.
Totally. And you'll see a lot of shows are going towards 8 episodes right now. And so you're absolutely right. A lot of actors don't want to be conflicted. They don't want to sort of tie up their entire year with a TV show. So they'll do their show, then they'll go on hiatus. They'll be able to film a feature or two, and then they'll go back and do another season. So,
which is really great, because there's a couple of shows that I had picked up over the time that I've really enjoyed. Also, it's like a couple of them that it's like with Netflix that they're really starting to pick up in terms of that. It's like one of the ones I couldn't help but get myself hooked on was that Santa Clarita Diet. Mm-hmm. That one with Timothy Olyphant and Drew Barrymore, and I was like, oh, okay, there's an interesting new concept and stuff. There was, like I said, with Orphan Black, I've been following it since the beginning. There's like there's so many shows that it's like they're starting to, like, television is allowed to have a more breathe also and get a little bit more controversial with the subject.
Sure.
It's funny. It's like as though the roles are reversed. It used to be that the film industry used to take all the risks. The television audiences used to play it so safe.
Yeah.
And now it's actually reversed, where you have like a Game of Thrones and things like that, where it's like, nothing is sacrosanct on TV any longer.
Certainly with the cable. Yeah, certainly with the cable. And network TV has gotten a little bit more risque as well.
Yes.
As we've certainly seen, even in terms of mild nudity and things along that nature, and language opened up as well. So we're in an exciting age of television, certainly. And Netflix, as you mentioned, is really opening the door, not only on the series side, but on the feature film side. I think we touched a little bit about that last time. Making $100 million feature. So I think we're shifting the landscape. We're opening doors towards a lot more opportunity, and it's exciting for film and television creators, for content creators, because there are far more doors and more financial opportunities as well.
What they're really calling it also is that the digital marketer, like the digital companies, are now starting to become the new studio. Because it's like the studio has got, it's like it's now being run by tech people who understand, it's like the audience wants a certain content. They want to be able to be captivated. These shows that have whether you're talking film or television, they want to have a subject that is compelling.
Yeah.
It's like that series that I saw, Dig, I could not get enough of it.
Right.
And it's like I'm really hoping they do hit a season 2 on that.
Mm-hmm.
It's like don't know if they will or won't. It's like a lot of BBC things like that. It's like what we're starting to see is also foreign influences coming into American television, and we're receiving their broadcasts of shows in order to open up the market. And with
Sure.
Netflix and all of that, they're starting to become the new player.
Sure.
Hulu TV, YouTube TV. It's like, they're starting to become also the new studio because they're starting to bust out. Because are they hearing the people, or is it that the people are hearing them?
Mm-hmm. And Amazon calls themselves a
Yes.
studio. So you've got a lot of opportunities in the digital front. And you're right. These tech people are so savvy in terms of marketing the material, also on the film side. They're very specific. If you go to Facebook, you can search through any of your friends and see exactly the type of film and television product that they enjoy watching. Because
Yep.
for the most part, we sit there and we click. That's an advertiser's dream. And it opens the doors for very specific, demographic targeted marketing.
It does. And it also has changed the landscape of the marketing campaign, hasn't it?
Tremendously. We used to get a print and advertising budget, and if you're a studio, then you'll go through a media buying organization and they'll determine exactly where they want to place it. And now I think internally, these groups, these studios, the independents are trying to find angles with which to target a massive amount of individuals through digital channels, and really creative ways to do it. Whether it's through social media sites, through targeted advertising, whatever little secrets they have, they are certainly utilizing to their advantage. And so you're right. You have to have sophisticated, technology-focused individuals who are behind your team as well.
We had made mention a little while back that you can't target the same way on a Facebook that you would on a Reddit, on a Instagram, because you're looking at a different marketing. And if you want to be able to market through those, it's like the campaign has got to be different. What does that do then to the actual budgets themselves?
Are you talking specifically to the print and advertising budget?
Yes, to the printed advertising budget.
To your marketing budget?
Both.
Depending on how big of an approach you take, I don't see it taking a tremendous dent in their budgets. I think you can get really creative these days in terms of how you approach the audience and how you specifically utilize the tools that are at your advantage. So, again, it depends if you're an independent production company and you're trying to launch a film project, or if you're a studio, because the studios, while they're utilizing social media to get the buzz going, the pre-buzz going, I would say, what money are they really spending there? What are they really doing to get the product out to the marketplace? For the most part, these products are already selling themselves. So if I'm marketing the next Lord of the Rings, that's an easy sale, right? So I can just throw it up on Facebook that Lord of the Rings is coming out in 6 months or in a year's time, and then you're utilizing your television advertising, your theatrical advertising, your billboard advertising. That I still believe is utilizing the majority of the costs of your marketing costs. But as far as your digital space, I think it's getting creative that wins the game there.
Yeah, because we are definitely changing that space as well. Because now also marketing campaigns have started to have to target towards who on that social media bracket as well. Because you don't get the same people on a Facebook that you get on a Instagram.
You're right. And in fact, a lot of the Generation Y and millennials and Generation Z, the new generation, they're not even on Facebook anymore.
Yeah.
Facebook is becoming this sort of family-friendly environment, or you wouldn't believe it from the content that's written there. But I believe that that's what the younger kids see as the central demographic.
Yeah, they're more on things like Reddit and Snapchats, the things like that.
Right. Instagram, Snapchat, those are absolutely huge. I was speaking to a friend who sells for one of the major networks. She sells media buying time. So they'll place with her at one of the networks, they'll place their ads. And they are designing a specific show with short content to advertise on Snapchat to draw traffic towards the show itself. So people are really utilizing Snapchat these days. They're utilizing Instagram, as you say, with little short clips to grab people's attention.
Reddit's also a popular one. Goodness, there's like so many of them that are starting to pop up. It's like you think that one goes down and another one pops back up. It's
Certainly.
It's almost like saying, okay, well, LinkedIn, you do your business things on that. That's a business network. That is where you're supposed to be handling your business. Facebook, it's like, great. If you're having a family reunion, you're having, you want to keep up to date with people, great. Facebook's your thing. But if you're looking at it from marketing campaigns, yes, there's a lot that goes on Facebook because they also have a little bit of a business angle from there too. But people are starting to gravitate towards other medias as well.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
How does that then also change? Because it's like one of the things that I was talking about the other day, and we were talking about also, crowdfunding campaigns. They've also changed now as well. Because we were talking about this the other day. You don't want to do a crowdfunding campaign, and I swear that there has to be a T-shirt out there that said, I gave it to this crowdfunding campaign, and all I got is this crappy T-shirt.
Crowdfunding is an interesting, really interesting approach, and you have not seen many successful films raising their funding from the crowd. And as somebody who was intricately involved at the beginning of the crowdfunding for entertainment, you've seen a tremendous amount of change. And what's interesting now, and where I see it really coming down the line, is that you now have, and very soon we'll have crowdfunding for equity.
Yes.
Imagine if one of the studios says, you know what, I've got a deficit of, let's say 20% is my gap. I'm going to sell that to the public. So if I know I can get a tiny little piece of a major feature film, why not? What's $10, $20 to me if I know that I can make 10 times back my money on it. So we're seeing all sorts of interesting developments in that area. But I'll tell you why it's been very difficult is that most talent will not lend themselves to a crowdfunding project, and you need that talent in order to sell to the crowd.
Yeah.
Zach Braff, I believe, was the most successful at it. He raised this amount of money in a very short time on a project that he put his name to. So unless you specifically have an actor that is behind you and in fact fronting it, and then will take your message to their crowd and market it to their people, it becomes a very difficult process. That's not to say that people aren't raising money for projects all the time, but those are typically specific subject matter. So it's an IP-driven project based on a video game or a book, and then they're seeing some success in that area.
Well, and it does make sense because a lot of people don't like the whole entire idea of the crowd. It's also become a very inundated market, crowdfunding. So what do you think is the next evolution that happens after that will be branching out other than crowdfunding for equity? Will there become like debt source crowdfunding?
Potentially. I mean, that's there's always new developments in the space. I think that specifically now people are looking to equity as the next play in that arena. I'm not sure what's going to come next.
Yeah, because I don't know about you, but it's like I don't want the crappy T-shirt. If I'm going to sponsor in there, it's like thank you for your $5 T-shirt, for my $10 donation. My $5 T-shirt is awesome. If the production gets made, good on me. I have a great T-shirt to show for it. But honestly, I'd rather that you give me back my $10 plus another $10.
That would be nice. I think in today's crowdfunding age, you almost see it as a donation.
Yeah.
You go on, you want to help a young filmmaker make their project, or you have an affinity towards a certain subject that the project is based around, and then you'll donate. I don't expect anything back if I'm going to help a project.
Also, a question though being that it's like using your crowdfunding as a crowdsourcing campaign as well, because a lot of people, it's like they say, if you cannot raise any funds from crowdfunding in terms of that for your project, it's like really that means that the desire to want to see the actual film be made can be also a good measurement on it. What do you think of those?
Yeah, that's totally a good sort of a good marker to analyze if a crowd would like a certain subject matter. But again, it's a small pool you're drawing from. So for the most part, major films are not utilizing the crowdfunding. Crowdfunding.
Well, because most studios also have their independent sources that they deal with as well, correct?
Yeah, correct. So equity that's the golden nugget, right? When you're trying to get a feature film made these days, there are only a handful. I think you could probably count it on one hand, the equity players that are involved with the studios in slate financing and in independent feature film financing. And so it's really difficult to finance an independent project these days because there's such a limited amount of equity. So as we discussed last time, people are especially in the States, they're going overseas, or they're going to specific states that are giving them the best rebates and tax credits within those particular states, so that they can maximize the soft money.
Yes.
Because the equity is drying up. Nobody wants to jump in that game. I think too many people were burned.
Mm-hmm. And also, it's like a lot of the times, it's like there is no guarantee whether the movie will make money, will not make money, or the television series will be picked up, won't be picked up.
That's right. And so if you're a businessman, and if you're looking at a specific investment, if you're in finance, right, and let's just take a normal business, what are you analyzing? You're analyzing, the P&L, your profit, your loss. Mm-hmm. You're going to look at the management team, and you're going to look at the content. Well, if you're an investor on Wall Street looking to finance a slate of feature films, where are you going to go? You're going to go to the studio, because you know that they are typically the most successful. They've got the biggest upside. Their projects have had the most success, and the people who are running those particular projects, from the producers to the director, even to the talent, are top notch. So I understand it makes sense, and as an independent producer and distributor, it makes it very difficult to raise equity against that.
See, now, why are people also so scared of debt financing? Because a lot of people, it's like they shy away from it, especially when it's offered to them as in terms of debt. It's like a lot of people have the mindset, it's like debt financing is probably the wiser way of going, because yes, obviously you owe the money back. In terms of that, it is a risk of owing the money back and at a certain interest rate. But where with equity, your investor is perpetually with you for the rest of your eternity, possibly. In debt finance, once the debt is paid, it's like they're out. So what becomes then the fear of that? As long as you know that it's like you can feel that, okay, certain percentage is given back because of the tax credits. and B, if you have any gaps, super gaps, any of the sales that come in, some of the pre-sale also becomes your upside of getting in there. So really, in terms of debt, you're not borrowing as high against. So what is the fear?
I don't necessarily, I wouldn't call it a fear of debt financing. I just think it becomes a much more difficult process when you're going that route to actually get a project off the ground. So if I have a project that has is set up as an international co-production and is requiring just a certain amount of equity to launch, then we know that there's sort of a light at the end of the tunnel. Debt financing is much more complicated, and I don't necessarily think that everybody is rushing to provide that facility for you.
Because a lot of people do provide those gaps and super gaps in terms of certain finance.
Yeah, so they'll provide you the gap, but the risk is minimal compared to a debt facility. So a lot of these debt facilities, they want to see that you have your pre-sales in place and your co-production agreements in place, and that everything is there, so that at least they have have something to draw back on should the project fail.
Well, it seems to me that another difference too here, and please correct me if I'm misunderstanding this, but when you're dealing with investors, they're going into this knowing go wrong, and they might not get their investment back. If you're going into this as a debt thing, then even if the film, doesn't get made, you still have the debt that you have to pay back. Am I right?
You're correct. And so there's a big risk, especially on a major feature film.
Yeah. Imagine borrowing $100 million and then everything falls through, and there's the debt agency going, well, we still get our $100 million plus interest. Fork it over.
Yeah, and in a $100 million picture, nobody's going to open their wallets for that unless you have significant pre-sales behind you and a really generous soft money setup.
Yeah.
So it does make it a lot harder, the game, in terms of the financing strategies that come through.
We're looking at, we look at both. We
Yeah.
have a debt facility looking at one of my television series that I said, bring us a couple of pre-sales and we're a go. And on the equity side, I can't even tell you how many times I've chased equity, and for whatever reason, it just has blown up in my face. So everybody says they're running around with $100 million fund or a $200 million fund, and we chase that rabbit down the hole. But more often than not, you've got to sort of wade through the mud to find anything that's challenging.
You also have to find that rabbit that's willing to come for the ride.
That's right. And there are very few rabbits out there who are willing to do that. Look, if you look at film and television overall, it's a really risky investment. To anybody, providing debt, providing equity, which makes it really challenging.
It does. And also, do you find, though, that also in terms of the foreign markets, they're a little bit more open in terms of their equity as opposed to here in North America? It's like, do we have a much more conservative attitude, or do actually the Europeans and the foreign markets have a more conservative attitude?
Well, when I started in the market back in, I'm going to date myself here. I started in 1998, I want to say. 98.
You were 12.
In 98, I started in the market. I was certainly the youngest one in that market. And what was interesting is that it was the time when all the German banks really opened up their wallets, and so everybody was chasing the German funds. and the Germans got burned investing into U.S. pictures.
Mm-hmm.
They came to the market with glossy posters and big stars and a domestic deal with the studio, and they invested a ton of equity. One of the companies went under from it because all of the pictures were poor.
Yeah.
Poor quality. There was one good one in the slate, and the rest of them, they lost their booty. So they started being much more conservative in terms of investing into the U.S. market, and they probably said, let's look internally. Europa Corp was formed in Europe, and that acts as another studio these days. They're making major pictures because they're also taking advantage, and they realize they can take advantage of a European co-production, international co-productions. They've got access to the same soft money opportunities as we do, and they're also investing their own capital.
Well, and it's also going to be a different thing if this actual whole Brexits and all of these exits things go through, of what happens with Europa Corp in terms of that, because again, it's going to change the landscape of the market, because suddenly we're going to be breaking territories.
I think you're right, and I think in terms of co-productions, it may have a large effect on it. Specifically with the UK.
Yes.
The UK is a big hub.
Yes.
For co-productions, and so we may see some changes in the near future.
And it's like, even now, in terms of what's considered a British production, it's like that's been tightened up a lot of what is considered to be a authentic British production when you're doing the co-production agreements.
Certainly, and with every territory, I think they've gotten much stricter, and they realized that people were running around some loopholes and being successful at it. So even in the United States, it's become increasingly difficult to shoot in one of these tax-friendly states.
Yeah.
And productions were burned from the government side as well. So it's a two-way street. Sometimes you'll go into production and then the state will be bankrupt and they won't be able to refund your credits. So it goes both ways. It's just you never know what you're going to get.
Yeah, it's one of those great mysteries that film and television is, and also a lot of television is starting to go towards those tax credit states, as well as also some of them. It's like they've literally put their world on hold. Like for a while there, I know that with Outlander, it's like that they were filming in Scotland. They had to do a little mini break, and now I think that they're back up and running.
Yeah, the production, the TV production that I'm putting together, and I can't speak about it just yet, but it is going to be shot in Canada as a Canadian production, an international co-production utilizing Italy and the UK and Spain. And we have to adhere to a lot of the rules and regulations to take full advantage and get every penny that we possibly can have access to. And if you do it right, you'll be shocked. You can get in excess of 70% of your entire budget covered through soft money. So in that case, you're really just you're looking at a super gap and you're done. So you don't even necessarily need equity. Yes, sorry.
I was gonna say, no, just when you go to, like, say, Spain and stuff to shoot, and you're shooting outside of the U.S., you talk about like the tax credits and stuff. Is the rules and stuff that you have to adhere to get the tax credit, are they a lot stricter or a lot more or lesser than in the States?
I'm not sure if it's an issue of being strict or lenient. I think in Europe you just have more challenges, because if you're going to put together a British co-production, then you have to have all the British elements. If you are doing a Canadian, you have to have Canadian elements. And elements, I mean a writer,
Cavco.
right, a writer, a director, you're at least your second leading star, and so on and so forth. Every territory is different, so those are the challenges. And there are a lot more American movie stars than there are from other parts of the world.
Also, in places like Canada, for example, they do a lot of things that they want CanCon. They want it to have a lot of Canadian content. It's
Right.
very interesting that it's like also in terms of Europe, they have it as being British content or European content.
Right.
It's kind of interesting though that when I look at it from the American point of view, it's like it's just got to be a great story.
Yeah, well, we don't have to adhere to the same point system as those other territories do.
Yeah.
So it's not as challenging in that respect. We just have to make sure that we shoot in that state and that we utilize the crew from that particular state, and that's all we really need to do in the United States.
Does everybody then maybe need to become either unified one way or the other, in your opinion? In order for it to be able to continue on, because it's like, because you were saying certain states are becoming bankrupt, some are taking away their tax credits in that sense. It's like then maybe the thing should be unified if it becomes quote unquote the American production. Like it has to have an American content.
That would be a dream. That would be a dream. But every state has their own rules and regulations, just on a day-to-day basis as well, apart from the entertainment industry. So I highly doubt that we'll ever see it on a federal level.
Interesting, because also in terms of a lot of things that are starting to happen, I'm noticing that a lot of television things, movie things, it's like they're starting to also become very cause related. We were talking earlier on in the fact that it's like they don't make it children of a lesser god anymore. Mm-hmm. They don't make other like content that has a deeper social content that also deals with characters and people who are not outside quote unquote the norm in the Hollywood world. Right.
You're seeing a lot more of that in television, though, and that's what really draws me to TV, specifically on the cable channels and Netflix, especially.
Yep.
And your digital channels. So I do feel that they're able to take more risks because they have a broader audience.
And that's why shows like Speechless are getting so popular. And it's like, to me, I find that Speechless today, as your life goes on, of back in the day. It's like it's taking its own risks as being that, or This Is Us.
Yeah, absolutely. And even on the reality side, you'll notice that people are really trying to find those little niche markets that have not been covered before. That's the name of the game on that side of things. So it's television and film are operating in two totally different stratospheres at this point.
Do you think that also in terms of the television side that we're going to be starting to see a lot less reality TV and a lot more scripted, or are we going to keep a balance here?
I hope so. But as I said, if somebody finds a little niche that hasn't been covered before, you never know when it's going to attract millions and millions of viewers. And for Netflix, I'll give you, they'll give you some change to go out and shoot it because it's pocket change for them. And if the pilot resonates well and they like it and it hits, then you've got a hit show.
And it's also kind of interesting because for a while there, like for example, MTV, when it started, it was a music channel. It was 24/7 music and videos and all that. It's like, again, and then it went to some sort of tween channel where it became all about the real world and all of that. And now we're starting to pull back in on that channel towards a little bit more dramas and things like that are going on and a little bit more social and stuff. It's very evolutionary. Is there a cycle that's happening like this in film of any sort?
Not that I've noticed. I mean, you folks see it every day. For the most part, the films that are getting released are IP-driven, large-budget genre pictures.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't see studios taking that risk anytime soon. I think I think they'd rather go spend $200 million to make $1 billion.
And sadly, not everything that they spend that money on makes their box office.
Right, that's correct.
In fact, about 90% doesn't.
Yeah, that's correct. About 9 out of 10 films that they release, you got that one film that then carries the studio for the entire year.
Yeah.
Now, let's talk a little bit also about things of Q ratings, because this is also a huge thing that has started to happen with actors driving the Q ratings for what gets content driven in terms of television, in terms of the film industry as well. How is the Q ratings system starting to change? Because when, for example, that they're talking about, and I hate to call it like Dancing with the Stars, because sometimes it's kind of like Dancing with the Semi-Famous, and I'm not quite sure who you were, but you're sort of kind of there.
Yeah.
Because I guess that they needed a 14th fiddler spot.
I've always referred to it as Dancing with the Vaguely Familiar.
Yes.
Dancing with the has-beens.
Yes. Or, and it's like, okay, what now defines a star? What now defines star content? Because it used to be a star was somebody who was like pulled in box office Q and box office draw, either internationally or domestically.
Mm-hmm.
What is now considered to be a star in the star system? If we can call.
So you're asking how do you define an A-list talent?
Correct, because that line has left the building.
That's easy. It's me.
Yep.
I think, it's interesting because coming from selling movies for so many years, we typically when we go to our buyers, to whether it's to do pre-sales or to sell the feature film, they want to know specifically who the cast is, and then they go and analyze what that cast is worth in their particular markets.
Mm-hmm.
So what defines that? That's a slippery slope. And typically we'll even have to go and approach our buyers with the talent prior and say, hey, is this gonna work for you? Does this talent work in the particular market? Because you're basing it on a few key territories that really drive the financing and the profits of these particular feature films. So you look at those particular countries: Japan, the UK, Spain, France, Italy, Germany, right? The US, obviously, Canada, and you look at what the talent has done in those particular markets, and then I think once you get those numbers, you can analyze and say, okay, they're A-list, but they're so fickle. Somebody can do, $150 million in the box office one time, and then their next film goes and bombs, and that is what they'll come back and throw back in your face. No, Liron, he's terrible. Did you see this particular film? It did, it bombed. But the guy just made $150 million 6 months ago. Doesn't matter. So
Yep.
they're very fickle. Buyers are very fickle. The audience is fickle. If the star's not continuing to rise, then they're seeing that decline, and then to them, they're no longer an A-list.
That's why I'm so happy being a Z-list star.
See, one of the coolest things that I find is that also when you're looking at it from the marketing point of view, it's like who we thought was bankable years back. It's like some of them are not quite as bankable today. Some of them are bankable in different markets.
That's right.
So how is then? It's like I understand that that would be how we deal with A-list, B-list, C-list stars. But then how do you also deal with the bankability? Because it's like if the audience has seen them as overexposure, how does that work out? Yeah,
you bring up an interesting point. So you know how I judge whether an actor is no longer A-list? If I go to the market like the Cannes Film Festival, and I see that Jean-Claude Van Damme is in 4 or 5 different independent movies, I know they're out of the A-list game. If I have access as a producer to talent that's not doing major feature films anymore, then you know that that actor no longer has the same cachet. And that's how I always judged. I go to the market, I'd see, you have character actors like a Christopher Walken that'll do films across the board from little tiny independent movies all the way to major studio films. But I think as a leading actor, you can really see, their status from the type of films that they're actually involved in.
So it is also depending on the project that they're actually going to and gravitating towards.
Yeah, a lot of talent is drawn towards well-written material, but a lot of the time, the passion projects, the well-written material is not necessarily going to pay the bills. So there's a fine balance, and the agents have a lot of pull in Hollywood in determining what their client is going to be involved in. I can't even tell you how many agents have killed deals in Hollywood. I'm sure you're aware of that. Even before a script gets to the talent, an agent is killing it. So I believe that if actors were their own agents, you'd be seeing a lot better quality material come out.
Definitely, but they'd also be inundated with like 20 times more material as well.
Definitely. I'm being a little tongue-in-cheek here. And, an actor's not going to be their own agent. They certainly don't have the time for it. But I do believe that there is a significant drop-off in the quality of content because actors need to make a living and agents need to get paid and the studios need to bring in a revenue and the investors need to get paid back. So that's what we're really seeing today.
It also comes together as well with the package. A lot of packaging agents are now starting to become necessary or not necessary in the business because a lot of people are able to put together their own package.
They are, but you can't circumvent the agency. So you can, if you have the relationships, I'll make a call to a talent. I'll say, can I send you a script? I'll send them the script. Most talent will not put their name on something unless they know that there's a director involved that they're comfortable working with and excited to work with. And so you can, as an independent producer, package it, and as a financier, looking at it from the other side, we don't want to be in the development. We want to analyze something that's ready to go. Those financiers, or the studios, the indies, everybody's looking at content that's not only a good script, but that has those elements attached. So I still think, as an independent producer, we're getting inundated with agency products that's slipping through the studio system. The studios can only make so much content. I do think that they still wield a significant amount of power in that respect because the packages that the studio pass on are then going down to the mini majors and then to the large independents and then it'll come across my desk as a financier and they'll say, this one fell through, we need to be in production by this certain date. Can you put it together? And typically it'll come together that way. So I hear what you're saying, but I do feel that packaging agents still do wield a tremendous amount of power.
And they do. Now, I had an interesting thing that it was a different situation. Had a packaging. I had spoken with a couple of lawyers who have said that also managers can no longer deal with negotiation on deals and stuff, with at least in California and stuff. Does that go a wide across, or is it the fact that it's like you do have to still deal through the agent, even though it may be easier to deal through through the manager?
Well, the agents have restrictions. They can't be producers on the project. They can negotiate the talent deals, but they can't. It's such a gray area because the agents are also involved with the distribution companies overseas. They'll bring distribution companies to get involved. They'll bring the financiers to the table, but they won't necessarily negotiate the deal. So I think there's a gray line. Whereas a manager they're typically in the best position. I have a number of friends who are managers. They have exceptional clients.
Yes.
They will sit there and they'll read 100 scripts, and if one of their 100 gets made, they're jumping up and down and they're acting as a producer on the project. Whereas the agency works in a very different way, in that they just represent the talent and they can't actually put their name on the project itself.
So they're actually limited by what they can and cannot do.
Correct.
But why do you think that it's like they took the time to doing that, of actually differentiating the manager from the agent at this point in time?
Yeah, I think from it's a legal question, right?
Yes.
You have to be licensed to be an agent. You don't have to be licensed to be a manager. What that necessarily has to do in the correlation between negotiating the film deal itself versus just negotiating talent, I don't necessarily know the answer to that, but I do find it to be fascinating as well.
Yeah, it's just such a changing thing as well. And I have to also admit that another one that I find very interesting, we've come across a couple of things that have been coming up on places that are dealing with consultations pay to pitch places that we find all over in the industry. What's your thoughts on the whole idea of pay to pitch or pay to be a consultant?
Don't.
Yes.
Don't. It's like those talent scouts that they say pay us and we'll get you some auditions. Don't do it. Don't do it. Go the regular.
Yeah. And go to people who it's like actually believe in the project itself.
Yeah. Pay to pitch. I mean, that's an interesting concept in itself. The channels are set up for a reason, and the people who are making those decisions are in power for a reason, and it takes quite a bit to crack that inner circle and to be able to reach out and get access. But once you do, you realize that there are players in Hollywood, and then there's everybody else on the outside, and there are people who are actually making things happen, and then there are people who are trying to make things happen. And you have to be very cautious.
Let's also delve a little bit also into your distributor side as well. When you're looking at the actual marketing, when you're going from either a festival or the way that you're dealing with your marketing campaigns in terms of that, what do you think has also changed in terms of, because a lot of times it used to be that you wanted the actors to be there during the panels, during that. It's like, and realistically, it's not happening anymore.
Yeah, it's really fascinating because I think I may have touched on this last time, but I'll rehash it. When I first went to the markets and I went to the Cannes Film Festival, the studios would try to outdo themselves in terms of the marketing, everything from the parties that they would throw. I mean, I went to a James Bond party where they transformed the entire grounds into icicles and they built a casino. I mean, they spent
Wow.
and they used to, the parties that we used to see, the parties on the beach, you were rubbing elbows. I used to rub elbows with all kinds of celebrities and athletes just because I was in the same room. Not necessarily I was seeking it out. It was just, that was the place to be. And I think as budget shrunk, specifically marketing budgets, and less avenues, less money in the film business itself, I think people were very cautious, specifically on the independent side. Studios will still put out some money to market and have some fun, but I think as an independent distributor, you have to be really careful, and most independent distributors just don't have that kind of capital, even in their marketing budgets, to be able to go and do the same thing to attract the buyers.
So in terms of the package, it becomes lean. What does it do in terms of also the PR then for it? It's like, because that has to also be influenced as well, because you notice the booths and all of that. It's like the fancier booths and not so fancy booths, things like that, that also bring the buyer to the.
Yeah, I make fun of my dad because he's so old school. I mean, the booths that they used to build, because it was all about, it was about the flash. And buyers would buy, a piece of they'd buy off a poster. There was such a demand back in the day. The video markets. Remember when you used to go to mom and pop video stores, and not only Blockbuster and the Blockbuster hits, but you would have so much of a selection to choose from because the video markets were exploding, and then that disappeared as video stores closed and we moved into the pay TV market, and then that was based on the theatricals. So I think, whereas back in the day, and I touched on this as well, our booth, my first market, was 5 times the size of a tiny little booth next door to us that was Lionsgate.
Yeah.
And I don't necessarily think Lionsgate would go with the same tiny booth. But it goes to show you that buyers now, much more astute, they're much more focused. When I used to sell movies, when I first started, I could sell off that piece of paper, the one sheet. I take the one sheet to the market. I can pitch really well. Okay, I can tell a nice little story, but as long as I was getting my point across, and pitching in a good manner, and the price was right, they'd buy it, and I'd have 25 different buyers from every territory lining up. Now you have very specific buyers in each territory, a few in each territory who have survived the change, and they want to analyze everything across the board. They want to read the script. We used to sell off trailers, so trailers would be a huge ordeal, and it used to be, really, your trailer was your true selling point in a market, because I used to play them the trailer, pitch them the story, get them excited, boom, I was closing the deal. Good luck. Now a lot of that business is getting done before you even go to the festivals, before you're even at the market. So a lot of the companies have their specific buyers, or they have an output deal. But a lot of the buyers, before you even get to the Cannes Film Festival that's going on now, if I have a hot project, when I was selling, I remember I was selling at the time a Richard Gere film and a Michelle Pfeiffer film with a company called Bauer Martinez. We had a deal with MGM, and they caught wind of that, and it was like open season. All the buyers were calling me immediately, so I was sending the script. This was, as soon as we announced it. So by the time I got to the market, I had a few small territories that were still in play, but for the most part, my buyers had already snatched up the material. So markets are definitely changing. You don't need, and I always said, as I grew up through the business, I said, I don't really see the value in spending hundreds of thousands of dollars on a market when I could go and spend $20,000, fly to each of my clients, see them face to face. I'm not rushed by a 30-second meeting or a dinner to close. I can take my time. We can hang out. We can schmooze. We can wine and dine. And then the next day I can go over and we can negotiate a deal. And so there's value in that. And it's been interesting to see the change.
So you think that also buyers are becoming a little bit more streetwise, shall we say?
Oh yes, 100%. There was such a change, and I saw it as I grew up in the industry. As I said, very, very rarely now will a buyer, even with A-list attachments, and by A-list we mean A-list to them, right, to their specific territory. Even if I got them a Brad Pitt film with Steven Spielberg directing, and a 2,000 print release, they're still going to want to read the script. Why? Because just like the executives at the studio, if they green light a buy versus a green light a production, it's the same thing, right? The acquisition executive who's responsible. Look, if I just happen to have a Brad Pitt film, God bless me, but if I had a Brad Pitt film that I sent into the market, you better believe that price is going to be through the ceiling, because I need that sale in order to make my film, in order to make the project. So buyers are aware of that. And so they want a guarantee that this film is actually going to be going before they go and sign a piece of paper and sign their life away. So it's much more challenging these days.
So they're actually coming in also on a little bit of an earlier front as well, looking at the script and looking at those materials.
Oh yeah, as an independent producer, the pre-sale is key, both in film and television now, which we're utilizing to set up these international co-productions. The pre-sale has been a staple of the independent market since the late 80s. Where they used to throw an action star on a poster because there was such a demand, as I said before, that I hear stories of buyers giving production companies their gold watches in order to get to the front of the line, and that changed tremendously to where now they really have to analyze the entire project from A through Z.
How does it also now influence the buyers in terms of, because with the exhibitors, obviously they give the grandest territory to the studio systems and to that, it's like where a lot of independent cinemas are also starting to, shall we say, fade away, because it's like, the little indie theater is not staying around in lieu of these ginormous multiplexes and dinner theaters, which I really find an oxymoron in term, but okay. I always thought dinner theater, you had a live show that performed in front of you, but hey, dinner and a movie, why not? Go rock yourself wild. It's like, I always want to watch a TV dinner while, sitting in a big box office seat, watching, paying $15 to sit there and have another $15 for my food. And I don't even get to meet the people afterwards. It's like, absolutely, that works if it floats your boat. But, it's like you can, as opposed to having the theater, now it's like you can actually eat in the movie theater, which I was like.
You'd be surprised, but you'd be surprised. You'd be surprised. A lot of these theaters, my friend owns a theater called The Lot. There you go. I'll plug it in San Diego. And the quality of food is getting better.
Yes.
They're realizing that you can't serve people a hamburger and a hot dog in a nice seat and expect them to pay a fortune for it. So I think they're improving in that respect.
I call it the new drive-in movie, literally. It's like dinner, and it is actually more convenient to have your dinner there and then have to go out for dinner afterwards and stuff like that. And it's like, since you're already going to be seeing the movie anyway. But it's kind of what I'm looking for, I guess, at the end of it. It's like, okay, can some star just please come out, or somebody come out afterwards, walk around and go, did you enjoy this show? I'm the producer. I happen to be the producer of this project. It's like,
that's interesting. Do a little Q&A session with them after that.
Yeah. It's like, well, they're still munching on their dessert from,
right.
It's like their lemon meringue pie. Sitting there and going, so how was the process of making the production? Sorry, it's like I'm biting into my chicken leg while I'm talking.
You can't fool me. You don't eat chicken.
Exactly. Yeah. Yes, 31 years of vegetarian. So my tofurkey. It's like or my little like nuggety things or my salad, and going, well, so how did you yeah, so I mean, honest to goodness, it's like, yes, it is an amazing concept and I absolutely love the idea, but at the same time, I don't know, because I'm a child of live theater to begin with. It's one of those things of great that you combine dinner and a movie, but it's kind of like, okay, what you've also done is sort of, it's maybe a prejudice, but it's like diminished dinner theater. Because like I said, I'm half expecting at the movie, after the movie is done, somebody from production better be coming out and asking me, how did I like this film?
Yeah.
Offering me some sort of autograph or anything, especially since you made them into comfy couches that you're sitting there and eating your.
Hopefully you don't fall asleep in the middle of the movie.
Yeah.
Oh, I know that there's a movie theater down here now that they actually have recliner chairs, and I mean, you just
Yes.
push a little button and you're going back, and your feet are
Sure.
going up, and they're really heavily padded. It's like try to stay awake for the movie now.
Well, that all sounds well and fine and good, but I'll stick with my drive-in. I love my drive-in, and I'll stick with my drive-in instead of the sit in. And it's like if it's going to be that comfortable, I can just stay at home.
Do they still have any drive-ins?
Yes.
Yes, I do. I go to the drive-in. It's like it just opened up for the season a couple 3 weeks ago, and I'll go every other weekend or so. I've got a drive-in that's within 12 miles of my house. So
That's fantastic.
See, I think at one point in time that they will revive some form of the drive-in once virtual reality comes in, because they'll like put some sort of computer screen that will be there so that you can interact with it
yeah, well,
from your own vehicle.
I believe it's in Nashville. They're going to build they're going to build kind of like a drive-in theater, but it's not going to be an actual drive-in. In other words, they're going to like do it like a movie set. You'll have cars and stuff and picnic areas and stuff that you can go inside the building and you can go sit in a car, but in other words, it would be kind of like a stage prop or like, a movie prop car. And so it would be an indoor drive-in type theater. So, and except it's really kind of cool.
Yeah,
What it is.
I like that concept a lot.
Yeah, it's like it does sound like fun, because as long as they do that halftime movie that one where they had like the people with the rotating popcorn and all of those cartoons, it's like, and the hot dog jumping into the bun and all of that. I loved those things.
The most obscene thing ever made is that hot dog jumping in the bun.
I used to go to the UCLA basketball games, and LA fans are not exactly the most boisterous fans in the planet. But every time the little bear used to come around with that basketball, you wouldn't believe the reaction. The entire audience was going crazy. 1, 2, 3, they're following the ball. I was the UCLA yell leader. I was in charge, actually, in college of getting the entire crowd going wild.
Yeah.
And, I used to work so hard and get no response, and that little ball would come around the screen, and the whole crowd would go nuts. Go figure.
Oh yeah, it's like it brings people to the game. It's like the whole rest of the game could be there, but that bear following that ball, oh my God.
Yeah, or in other instances where they've got the little movie and they're clapping to get the entire crowd going. Come on your feet, and so media has a large influence in sports as well. It's interesting.
It does,
Yeah.
and what it also brings though too, it's like because of this whole entire influence and these things that are going on. When we were talking about the buyer and exhibitor into this situation, because of that, how is it that it's now working with the buyer, bringing a lot more indies into that space? Because as I said, a lot of it's taken up by the studios, those crowds, and bringing it into those smaller, like is the sports arena maybe the next movie theater?
I think you've got your movie theater at the palm of your hands these days.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, these little screens right here, that is your own personal movie theater wherever you go. And that is what marketing gurus are aware of, and that's content producers. Everybody who needs to reach an audience for whatever reason is aware that you have this at your fingertips. So a lot of messages that used to be construed by written material are now in short little video messages. Everything. You go look at even on the sports side of where you used to have articles, and I used to love reading the articles, and now it's somebody yapping away to me on camera. A lot of the time I'll turn it off because I want to read. So they're almost forcing you to adapt to this medium.
It is, and it's really bizarre as far as I'm concerned in terms of a medium because, now you can snap on your iPhone and you can watch something as you're driving and stuff, and you don't have to have the drop-down DVD screen. You could just give your kid the cell phone and they can watch whatever they need to during the time because of this whole unlimited data stuff.
Yeah, and look up. I mean, the screens these days. Look at this thing.
Yeah.
This thing is freaking massive, right? The S Plus.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was working on a project in Costa Rica. This thing was my television.
Yeah.
And it's great. I mean, when you're up front like this close, you don't need a bigger screen. You're good.
Nope. And it's it tend to take it on the plane. You can take it anywhere with you, and it doesn't take. And it takes up a third of the space of your laptop or anything of whipping that out. Right.
So you've got your own movie screen right in front of you, and people are of course watching movies on it as well in television series. So, it's a marketer's dream, right? Because they've got instant access, instant gratification. They've got lists from everything that we do online. We can track. And from a producer standpoint, it's great because then we have more access to financing and more channels to distribute the product. It's a win-win. Media has totally opened up over the last few.
And also, so what do you think is going to be the next window that comes into the market that's going to...
Everybody's talking about virtual reality. You touched on
yes.
that. That's what everybody's talking about and trying to angle and get involved in. I think that's where we're heading. You remember the whole 3D revolution, and that's even improved. You remember when we first started going to watch 3D movies? You used to get a headache from putting on those goggles if they weren't absolutely filthy because they were recycling the same one. And now the 3D is fantastic. I mean, you can get it at home, right? You can buy your television and screen it that way. So the advances have been phenomenal, and I'm excited for virtual reality.
Me too, because I think it's going to take a next level to a movie. It's now you will be able to interact with it from a different character. One of the things, though, are you for or against the fact that they are starting also to CGI in old actors and stuff into?
I love that. In fact, my friends will laugh because I once had an idea to do a concert with hologram talent to broadcast, and then somebody did it and spent millions of dollars, a few years later to actually do it. But I don't mind it. Let's have some fun. Let's mix it up.
See, I find that it's also something that's really, really cool because it's then, if, God forbid, that your talent passes before your performance is finished, it's it gives you an opportunity to be able to finish the film without really having to recast and spend a lot more on reshoot.
That's totally correct. I think that the concert game is the most affected by that. Just today, we lost Chris Cornell, who's the lead singer of Soundgarden and Audioslave, and you when people lose a loved one, okay, it hurts. When you see people constantly dying, okay, people will mention that, and then it's gone. When they lose a celebrity, when they lose a rock star, there's a piece of their soul that's being ripped out.
Yes.
Right? We all have that connection with music artists or a celebrity in the theaters or a television star, whatever it is, you have that connection. So if I can bring back that connection to somebody, even if it's for a few moments, what's that worth to them? It's worth a fortune.
Absolutely.
Replace that.
Yeah, and my favorite part is the fact that it's not limited to who you can bring back in terms of talent. It's this is why I'm excited about virtual reality, because then you'll actually be able to interact with this image. It won't just be a dry CGI image that's put on a screen. It's something that you will actually be able to interact with. touch and actually become it.
I can't wait for that. I'm also looking forward to be able to sing it. You know, imagine if I put on a virtual reality goggle and I'm singing with Frank Sinatra on stage. I mean, that
Yeah.
would be a dream. You know, there's an app called Sing, which I regularly use.
Mhm.
I sing with people all over the world, and they have video. And now they're bringing in, for the last couple of years, they've brought in celebrities. You can actually sing a duet with a pop star.
Nice.
Now imagine taking that to the next level where actually you're in virtual reality mode, and I don't know how that would play out, but all of a sudden you're standing next to them, you're able to interact with them. It's tremendous.
Yeah, you can dance with them.
Dancing with the stars.
Yes.
With the has-been.
True. And with the present day ones too. Yeah. Dancing with
Yes, the first one will be Dancing with Olaf. Yes, it will. It's coming out soon. You know, it'll be in your virtual world soon. Dancing with
Cool.
Olaf.
Hey, which one are we doing? The tango, or are we doing the foxtrot, or what?
Hey, it's virtual. I can do whatever you want to do. It's not a problem.
Excellent. It's like it will also become an interesting tool for teaching as well. Because I figure that also with virtual reality, another thing that they will be able to do is do a lot more crossover platforming. What are you thinking of this crossover platforming market? It's like, do you think that films are starting to really take off on wings because they can go into a gaming environment as well as because
yeah, absolutely. In fact, you know, a lot of projects are greenlit because the IP has had so much success. So if it's a novel or if it's a game, we all, that's the dream. The dream is to have many different outlets and take advantage of the ancillaries and the merchandise and, you know, every type of revenue stream that you can facilitate for the production. So that's a home run. I have friends who specifically develop video games into feature films, and so this, you know, the studio will pick it up because it's had so much success. It got tracked. We were talking about marketing. If I'm putting together a major feature film based on a successful video game, what do I have to do? I have to go into Facebook and just type up that Slades of Glory 17 is now coming to the theaters, and you know, everybody's jumping up and down. That is an easy crowdfund.
Yeah.
At that point, to tie it all in.
And it's also an easy sell because it's like anybody who knows the gaming market.
Yeah, and you know, you're going to have a film, you're going to have a TV series spin-off off of it, maybe a comic book, all the toys, you know, your merchandise. You have a lot of different avenues.
Yep. And it definitely is something to consider. But one thing I also wanted to step back on and talk a little bit about, because a lot of people don't talk about this, is the fact of insurances that have to be taken into place for a lot of this stuff. And a lot of it being that you have to insure your actors, insure your locations, insure your liabilities of all of that. And then also the distribution side, you also have to have your own guarantees that towards your buyers as well, don't you?
There's no insurances with respect to on the distribution front. In fact, you know, certainly you have to have insurance in place for the production, but as far as distribution, a lot of buyers are getting burned. I think I touched on this last time as well. You can pre-sell a particular product for a certain amount, and then a lot of these independent companies are relying on that 20% initial deposit to keep them afloat. There's absolutely no assurances that the project is actually going to get made, and so then they're chasing their money, which they're probably never going to see, and then you have to renegotiate other deals and future deals, and so there is that level of risk, and that's, I think, why buyers become more sophisticated and conservative in their approach.
Well, which just makes sense, because it's like, what kind of levels guarantee? Because there is always the person who, it's like the buyer does have it, the distributor does do this, and you wind up, unfortunately, with somebody who goes, well, that was my work. That was initially done and stuff like that. It's
Yeah,
like
all the time, that happens.
yes.
I have a friend, Ivy, who was working for a production company at the time, and she developed a pitch for a TV show,
Mm-hmm.
which she handed to her boss at the time, and the show was called The Biggest Loser.
Mm-hmm.
Remember how successful that show was?
Yes.
She got no credit. In fact, she was let go. And
Wow.
to this day, she's still involved in a revolving lawsuit. And it's it's very difficult to prove copyright unless you specifically, unless you can prove that you specifically had that exact concept and that you registered it prior, which is why registration with the WGA becomes key.
Mm-hmm.
So you want to register your material and send yourself a copy of it, first class mail. That all becomes important. Even the titles of films, which people don't know about this. There's a specific department within film and television that you have to apply to receive that specific title. So I cannot go and infringe upon a successful franchise and call my film Bond 4.0, which is, James Bond, right?
Mm-hmm.
So people fight over titles. I got offered money in the past for a specific title that I had come up with. There's a title called Checkmate. I remember it was a little action movie I wanted to do, and I had the studio call me and lowball me, and I didn't do the deal. But it's interesting to see how copyright, and there are a lot of lawsuits that do get settled. The music business is an interesting one to look at, especially in that regard. You'll see, because there are only so many notes, there are only so many particular variances that songs can be made up with. So you'll see a lot of artists have egg on their face because somebody will sue them, and actually it's an artist from the past will sue a major talent currently within the record industry and win, whereas film and TV, it's the line is a little bit more gray as far as what is being replicated and what is.
Yeah. Well, also it's like blurred line. That blurred lines case with Marvin Gaye, it's like that was like the never-ending 5-year battle.
It goes on and on and on.
Yeah.
My father once had the rights to. He had a company called 21st Century. He signed James Cameron and had the rights to Spider-Man.
Mm-hmm.
I kick him every day that he sold those rights. But many years later, he was intricately involved in the lawsuit, because the studios were all fighting over the rights, and that went on for quite a while. So when depending on obviously the value, when it's a Spider-Man franchise is worth billions. Again, I'm kicking you dead. Then that's what it is.
And it's quite it's like when you're looking at copyright, you're looking at that, and you're looking at franchises. It's like as well. Let's talk a little bit also about in terms of ratings, because this is something that we had touched on a different show, but it's like it's like also in today's standards of, because we're blurring the lines, no pun intended, but it's like we are mixing risque things in television. We're doing that. It's like, is our rating system changing to be able to reflect it? Because
I think so. In fact, you look at what used to be considered. Remember, we had R rating, then they went to the NC-17.
yes,
You don't really see that rating given out anymore, do you?
no,
And pretty much R rating gets away with anything they want to do at this point.
yeah.
So gratuitous violence, gratuitous sex, whatever it may be, I think that feature films and cable network are really able to get away with anything at this point.
Because at this point in time, it's like it's become such an open market that people are so much more accepting.
I think you're right.
it's like otherwise there wouldn't, like a lot of people have sat there and talked about that show 13 Reasons Why.
Mm-hmm.
And it's been a very controversial one, but again, it's like somebody had to have greenlit it, and somebody said that this has to be made and it has to go out there. And there you go. You find that it's like audiences have also become more educated.
Yeah, but
so
we're
to
also
speak.
evolving as a society.
Yes.
Whereas it was like taboo to even have mentioning anything about the gay or lesbian community.
Mhm.
Now, you see. You'll see two men making out on the screen.
Yes.
Whereas before it was just such a shock to the system. Now, we as a society have evolved, so we're more accepting of that. And also, Hollywood's very liberal, so that they're able to push a lot more buttons.
Yes,
So
isn't it exciting that married couples don't sleep in separate beds anymore? Because you always wonder where the hell all those kids came from.
Somebody crossed over to bed at one point in time.
There's a lot more male nudity I've noticed in cinema today and in television today.
Yeah.
A lot more male nudity, whereas they didn't really have that before. It's interesting.
Good for goose, good for gander.
Hey.
It's the human body. It's like why not?
Why not?
See, one of the things that are also very interesting is like also language has also opened up as well, and it brings to are we also getting into a point where it crosses over a line? Where it becomes
you're asking,
too gratuitous.
It depends on who you're asking, right? I mean, there's a large contingency of the American public that I would agree with you. That is appalled. That is appalled by the content that's being released today. And then there's
nothing shocks me.
There's a large part of us that we're all right with it. We're much more open in our upbringing. So depends on your tradition, how you were raised, and the values, and a lot of on the more conservative side. I have investors that specifically only will look at children's content for that very reason, family-based content for that specific reason.
Well, which does make sense if that is their target market, is that they want to have a youth audience be there, like what used to be YTV. I'm not sure if that still exists, YTV, or if it got amalgamated into E Entertainment or something like that. It's like I know that it got amalgamated somewhere into there, or like a PBS kind of thing. It's like, yes, you're looking at family kind of content,
right?
Or things like A Dog's Purpose and stuff like that.
Right, and that's cute. And family content works. It's specifically working, like you mentioned, This Is Us, right? So they're definitely family shows, a Modern Family, that are really working on network television. But for somebody like myself, who's going to turn on, my favorite network is Showtime, and it's because it's so raw and gritty, and the writing is brilliant, and the characters are real, right? So you're getting
Suits.
You're getting a taste of Suits. Funny you mentioned Suits. My dog's trying to climb on my computer right now. He's like, "Feed me, Daddy, feed me. Sit, boy." Suits was my friend Rick. I was at UCLA. I think I want to say my freshman year. I was working as a waiter at Jerry's Famous Deli. My freshman or sophomore year, and my friend Rick was the head server, and he got. You never know, right? And you just stick with it. He was a little bit older. He got an audition for a show. The executive producer of Melrose Place, Darren Star, created a television show which lasted maybe 2 episodes. It was called The Street. It was about Wall Street. And it didn't last, but then he got noticed, and now he's one of the leads in Suits. So you never know as an actor. You just got to keep with your craft. Same thing as a producer and director. You just never know when that ship's going to come in, and you just can't give up.
Very true. It's like you don't just sit. It's like, oh goodness, who was the person who had made mention of that? People don't fail in the business; that they just stop trying.
Look, it's
There's a very
it's disheartening. You know,
yeah.
you put a lot of heart and soul. You can push a project for. I've been working on a TV show now for 4 years, and
Hmm.
we are 90. I don't even know what percent there, and then there's just as easy of a chance that the whole thing falls apart. And
Hmm.
then you spend 4 years of your life working really hard to push something together. As a producer, you need to have 100 projects going, and you hope that 2 or 3 of them are going to get made over the course of a year.
Yep. And then slowly you move the boulder, you move the boulder, and you move the boulder.
You move it, but if you look at the way that the big boys are operating, they don't operate that way. There's a fight over the hottest material. They know
Mhm.
that hot material is going to make them money, or of an IP, a specific property. They know it's going to make money. They put their resources into it. They get it cast. They find the right deals to get it in production. They're in production. They market it. It's done. On the independent side, it's a whole other ball game. And sometimes I wonder why I went this route instead of the studio route. But what are you going to do?
Because it's a lot more exciting.
More exciting. You're more involved. It's not it's such a corporate atmosphere. So there's the pros and cons of everything, right?
Plus, you get to meet fun people like us.
Yeah, and it's fun to live with that kind of anxiety every day of your life, right?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely, absolutely.
He says as he searches for the next glass of milk.
Yeah, right. Something to be had about being a starving musician. Absolutely.
Yeah, it's like this week it's steak, next week it's crackers and water. So
You better believe it. And as an independent producer, you might finally, I'll say, hit the jackpot, because that's what it feels like. It's so difficult to get a project off the ground, but you might actually get a project off the ground, have some success, and then you might not get another project off the ground for years.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like you said, crackers, steak, up and down, up and down. But I feel that that's the way life is for most people anyways. Very few people are blessed to have sort of that rise and then just an easy plateau for the rest of their lives. It's about ups and downs and how we deal with them.
And fortunately, we all love crackers.
Some peanut butter on top.
Yes.
You can afford that.
Have you tried that white chocolate peanut butter? Absolutely.
No, but that sounds amazing. I want to.
Oh my God, yes. It's like, it is the best.
Those are two of my favorite things. There's a white chocolate peanut butter?
Yes, and a honey one.
Where can I buy this white chocolate peanut butter?
Walmart.
Are they paying us to advertise this on the show?
No.
They should, because I want to go buy it right now.
Yes.
That sounds amazing.
Yeah, it's like I discovered this white chocolate peanut butter, and I'm like, must have.
Oh, sounds amazing.
Hello, white chocolate and peanut butter put together?
Yeah, that sounds outstanding and a little bit scary, but I really want to try it.
Oh no, so totally good. You'll like throw away the regular Skippy.
All we got to do is say the brand of this peanut butter, and I think we got ourselves a sponsor.
Oh gosh, it's like I can actually find the jar.
Oh God, you hold the jar.
Go get the jar. Go get the jar.
Product placement.
We have it's like, yes, we'll do that for our next show on Friday. It's like we'll have the corporate sponsor hold up the white chocolate.
I mean, you got me ready to run and buy it, so yeah, why not?
Yeah, it's like it comes in that, and it also comes in honey and peanut butter. And I'm like, hi, peanut butter and honey in the same. But again, who'd have thunk this combination?
For me, like white chocolate and peanut butter, that's for toast for breakfast. Honey and peanut butter, that's for the peanut butter and jelly sandwich for lunch. Oh man.
Yep.
I gotta go grocery shopping tomorrow.
There you go. Now I've started a fashion. This company that does it. It's like when we show you tomorrow on our show. It's like I would like you to come aboard as our corporate sponsor for Movietime, and we will all buy a jar of your white chocolate and peanut butter.
I think you got a couple. Yeah. Sorry.
Yes.
It'll say you're making me now when I leave my friend's house to go home. I have a Walmart within a half a mile of me,
See?
so I'll be going by Walmart. It's 24
Yes.
hours, so I'll be going by
Yeah.
Walmart, going, "Where's that? Where's it at?"
I'm ready to Google Walmart right now in my area up here in Northern California and see what's going on. I mean, it sounds really good to me.
It really is, and it's like it's so creative. I was like, and it's not even like swirled; it's right in there.
Amazing.
Yeah, it's like
That's good because when the girls were growing up, my wife would always buy this stuff called goober grape,
Yep.
which was peanut butter and jelly in the same jar, and it was like stripes of peanut butter and stripes of jelly.
Oh,
I was just
Yep.
like, no, that's evil.
that is disgusting.
Yeah.
They're not sponsoring the show after
No.
that comment, I'll tell you that.
No. Only the white chocolate. It's like them. You see them, and now also the Alamo Theater has to do it because we actually advertise them as well now with the Alamo Theater, who has just come here to Springfield. There's also one in Los Angeles. There's one out like there's several different locations of it. Who is
They're
dinner
all
in a
over
movie?
Texas. All over Texas.
Yep.
The Alamo, I've actually never heard of Alamo. Is that similar to the Lemley? Is it a special
It is.
kind of films? Got it. There's a lot of those closed
But the food is really excellent. Now,
You have the reclining chairs where you can fall asleep is the question.
Yes. They have it looking like couches. So I'm like, great. I'm just gonna lay across the couch and just order my food.
I love it. You're making me hungry.
Yeah.
You know what? You keep this up. I am actually in my car right now because my battery was dying. You keep it up. I'm gonna just take on off here and go to Walmart and get me some of that. And it's like it's gonna be we'll just do a drive-through show.
Hey, why not?
I remember we did that back in my TMOA days. You know the monk, Grayson.
Yes.
Yeah, we
Oh, yeah,
had
the
him.
monk.
We had him go to Walmart. He wanted to do a little shopping anyway, but it was the day after Valentine's Day. We made him go up to the employees and ask them where the leftover adult toys were from Valentine's Day. That was a fun show.
It was. I'm sure it was. So, Ron, also, it's like I was also wondering as well. So, what do you think is also then going to be our next big trend in terms of genres? Because it's like there's been a lot of certain genres coming out. What do you think is the next trend up on genres?
I'd be a billionaire if I could tell you that right off the bat. But I really think that next trend. There was a whole horror revolution for a while. I think that's gone.
Right now, we're in the middle of the superhero evolution, and that's eventually going to play itself out.
Is it though? Because Marvel has about 1 million different characters that are all putting together, and they're all combining.
Well, that's true. I think Marvel's going to be around forever, but I don't think they're going to have the kind of cinematic universe in a few years that they have right now. I don't know. I could be wrong.
Maybe, but you've got so many sequels. Batman, you'll have Batman 25, and they'll recycle that into a different type of Batman, and all these characters. Now, think about this: with every new character that's being introduced to young kids today, they're becoming fans. So as they grow up, they'll start to see these sequels and be interested and involved in that development as well. But I agree with you. It's not probably going to be the main fad that's out there, but it's I look at it as a sure way to success because you've already got the audience built in.
Yeah, but I'm thinking video game adaptations. I mean, they're just starting to make some some good ones. I mean, usually video game adaptations were horrid when they were first making them. And now they're starting to get better and better. And once again, you've got that built-in audience.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I think that's going to be the next evolution,
Why?
especially if they get the virtual reality thing going.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that mix could be really interesting. Could be really interesting. So, in thinking about it from that perspective, if virtual reality is really the next big fad from a technology standpoint, distribution standpoint, what type of content really is going to work with virtual reality? That's what we need to be asking ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
A romantic comedy, nah. But an action
Maybe.
movie where you're perhaps in the middle of the madness and you look left, you look right, you don't know where.
Yeah, I went yesterday to see Guardians of
Mm-hmm.
the Galaxy Volume 2 in it was still showing in 3D at the theater I was at. And as I'm watching it in 3D, I was starting thinking to myself, now imagine if this was virtual reality and anywhere I turn my head, there's
Mm-hmm.
action going on all around me.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's like, I mean, they'd have to redesign the theaters. The chairs would have to swivel around, 360 degrees.
Well, when 3D first came out, I don't know if you recall if you ever experienced this. I think I want to say Universal Studios, but we were in a
Mm-hmm.
room. We were in a room, and there was 360 degree screens all around you. So wherever you turned, there was that action. So you were in a
Yep. Like a
circular room.
Cinesphere.
Yeah, you were in a circular room. I remember standing and watching it, and it was tremendous.
Yeah, I remember standing in the middle of the Cinesphere in Ontario Place and having that happen and feeling like, whoa, I can like.
But but you're right.
Yeah.
But you all of you brought up an interesting point. Perhaps what's going to happen then is that particular virtual reality market is going to be shifted more to home viewing, where you're in the comfort of your own home, where you can move, where you can turn, where you can interact. Because what are you really?
Mm-hmm.
You're going to sit in a theater seat and actually start swinging your arms and smacking people in the face.
Yeah, that'll be really interesting. It's like then they won't have to build couches; they'll have to build entire like rooms for you, just your own little booth.
And just think. Go ahead, Olaf.
I was going to say, or it'll actually, things will move into and you'll actually wind up being like the movie Surrogate.
Yeah.
Or, imagine, it's an extended version of it because you can be in your living room, look around doing it, and then get up and walk into your bedroom, and there'll be a different scene happening in there at the same time as the one in your living room so that you can, juxtapose everything like that.
Richard, that's brilliant. I think we need to sign you up. Sign you up.
Please!
I love that idea.
Remember, I had it first, okay? I'm already ticked off that my idea for doing a
Mhm.
Fall Guy movie was stolen from me in 2010. So this one's mine. I said it first.
You heard it first on Movietime.
That's right.
Sponsored by that white chocolate and peanut butter company.
Ooh, are we almost there?
Yeah.
Sounds amazing.
So also, it's like, so Liron, as we're also wrapping there, is like, there any projects that you would love to tell us that are coming up in the field there that you could tell us all about?
I've really been focused on this one particular TV series that I give a little hint. It's in the mold of a Devil Wears Prada as a TV series. And so that's been my key focus recently. Developing an interesting series that's based on one of the longest running action television series in the United States that we're bringing back. I can't mention by name. But the TV series has been my focus, and I mentioned last time, positive media, Secrets of Positivity has also been a focus of mine, and trying to shift consciousness and trying to put out some content that's actually making a difference for humanity. That's really important to me. So you see it often with major A-list directors or producers that they'll start out and they'll make the bubble gum and the popcorn and the stuff that's really going to sell, because you have to prove yourself and you have to bring in the revenue and appease your investors as much as the audience, right? But I think if we look at the trajectory path and the career of somebody like a Steven Spielberg, whereas he started, of course, they were all phenomenal, but if you look at the content that he started creating, starting out with the Jaws and the ETs and then moving into the Schindler's List, I think truly, for the most part, I'd like to believe that most artists are in it for the right reasons and are in it to spread positive messages and influence the world. Which is why you'll never see me touch I don't get excited by a horror picture, but character-based projects that are that speak to the heart. That's what I'm interested in.
Well, which makes absolute sense. It's like something that touches people and has some sort of message of positivity that goes on with it.
Definitely.
And we're right back to Children of a Lesser God.
Truth.
We're right back where we started 2 hours ago.
That's true.
Yep. And
We have
also,
come full circle.
we have. So, Liron, also, how do they get you in social medias, and how if they want to be in touch with you?
They can actually start by going to the Secrets of Positivity, which is a page now on Facebook. Follow the Secrets of Positivity, and there's a link to me there. You can reach me on Facebook at Liron Artzi, LironArtzi, or many other social media applications. I use the same name for everything. So I'm an open book. Feel free to reach out, and I will get back to you as soon as I possibly can.
Sounds great. And Olaf, how do they get you in social media?
Well, you can stalk me on both Facebook and Twitter at Olaf Barbosa, but just don't stalk too close because I do get nervous and I do have an itchy trigger finger.
And Arpo, how do we get a hold of you on social media?
Well, if you just want to be social, you can reach me on Facebook. If you want to talk a little business, you can reach me on InLinked. I've been known to hang out in the Movie Underground forums. Always talk to me on Skype anytime you want. Just make sure when you send me that invitation that you let me know you're a fan of Movietime, because I get way too many marriage proposals from Armenian women. And by the way, little plug of Real Discoveries on Facebook, Facebook.com/Real Discoveries with Arpo.
Yeah, and it's like we are going to be hearing some of those really cool ones on as well over our time period as well. And for me, you can get me on LinkedIn, Visipedia, Facebook, Twitter, at Sonata Grayson, at Movietime Indie. Not that I'm able to really check those, but yes, you can get me on them because I'm a Twitter weenie. Don't really know how to answer people, but hey, absolutely hit me up on there, and then I'll learn how to answer you back. Also, as I said, goodness, with we are now on 14 different stations. Not only 12, we have been picked up by 2 more stations. Thank you, stations who have come to deal with the podcast. And may you be an amazing set of people. And also, like I said, with 4 pages of footprint on the internet and on social media, if really you can't find me, you're just not stalking me hard enough. You really have to stalk me harder. Just don't show up at my door like the person that showed up about a week and a half ago at our backyard. Some guy who just passed out on our backyard. It's like running away from the cops.
I forgot where I was going. I'm sorry. I didn't know it was your yard.
I know, and it's like you were being chased by the cops, and like I was being chased by the cops, and everything was on heroin, and I'm like, oh my god. So we had one on our driveway, and within a month, one on our backyard.
Wow.
Yeah.
Time to move. Time
Nope.
to go back to Canada.
No, just to have to get people to stop trying to flip the fence to our neighbor's yard.
Yeah.
So, just as a note of advice, if you are on heroin, do not try and jump a fence. It will only result in you crashing on our pavement and smashing your head open, and causing 3 cars and an ambulance to have to come there.
Not to mention interrupting the show.
Indeed.
What if they bring a jar of the peanut butter white chocolate? Will you be more accommodating?
All will be
I
forgiven.
will.
At least the next time if you're on heroin and you're trying to jump the fence, at least give some notice so that we can get it on record it so we can put it on YouTube for epic fails.
Yep. Yeah. Twice. And it's like I'm like sitting there going like, wow, America's dumbest criminals. That it has to be, because it's just like, and then the cops are surrounding him and he tries to escape again. I'm like, no, I'm sorry, you're not Bucky Phillips.
And I just want to say, Liron has to come back again
Yes.
and talk to us about positivity, because I think it's something we all can use more of in our lives, and certainly in this crazy cinema business that we're all trying to be involved with.
I completely agree, and it would be an honor to come back. Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you, and thank you for coming for part 2. And you have been amazing, 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 amazing. And to all of you, join us also tomorrow night as we explore piracy and scams.
Fun stuff.
Yes. With that, we say good night, all.
So long.